One of the trending topics in Black YouTube right now is educated lames, so I'm actually going to jump on that bandwagon and give my 2 cents. So, actually, this whole educated lame discussion is a reboot of discussions that were had back on Gen X when that was a thing. I think Sergeant Willie Pete even discussed it before he got kicked off of YouTube the first time. I know what an educated lame was, at least back then, but I don't know if they're still going with the same definition now, because even though several YouTubers have made videos on this topic, nobody's really defined what they mean by educated lame. And obviously we're not meant to take educated lame literally, because if these guys are lame, then that's their problem. They're lame. So I'm just going to go with the definition that I remember from back in the Gen X days. Alright, so basically the complaint of so-called educated lames is that they're being passed over by women in favor of thugs, at least when they're young, and then after the women have been run through and used up and abused by the thugs, they want to come to the educated lames later on in life and have the educated lames pick up their slack, take care of the kids that they had by the thugs, get them out of the debt that they got from supporting thugs, stuff like that. Basically a cleanup man, or a Captain Save-A-Ho, as they stated. Alright, so let's go back to the beginning. These men are complaining, for lack of a better word, that in their younger years, women are passing over them in favor of thugs. I'm going to be rather frank and say that a lot of these educated lame guys have an ego problem. They have identified a characteristic about themselves that they feel should make them the most desirable men, yet and still they are being outbid for women by quote-unquote lesser men. Now, even though I say you have an ego problem, I understand where you're coming from. You sacrificed, you delayed pleasure, you studied really hard, you worked really hard to accomplish something that most people will never accomplish. And you feel you should be rewarded for that. So I get that. And I definitely understand how it can make you salty if you think you're the better choice and yet somehow somebody else edged you out. But the reason I call it an ego thing is because it's similar to what racist white guys do. They put all their stock in being white, and then when they walk down the street and see a beautiful white woman with a black guy, it really messes with their head, because they're like, I'm white, why would she choose that over me? Justified or not, it's ego. Another thing, being educated doesn't excuse you from having to be attractive to women. And you guys should understand that, and I'm going to tell you why. When educated black women were waving their degrees around and saying, I don't have any kids, I don't have any debt, yada, yada, yada. I'm a good catch. And yet you guys pass over me and go marry that floozy who works in a call center. And the black guy's response was, I'm sorry, she's pretty. I don't want to have sex with your degree. I want to have sex with her, and I want to wife her up, so I'm sorry, you're just not attractive. Your degree does not make you pretty. Well, sir, your degree does not make you attractive to women. Okay, so what does make you attractive to women? Things that are tied to some kind of biological need or desire. So if you want to attract a woman, let's just say you could use 3 things. 1, you could use your looks. 2, you could use your personality. Or 3, you could use money. All 3 of those are based in biology. Obviously, a man with money can provide. Women are hardwired to seek out men who can provide for a family. Let's move on to looks. Looks serves a purpose. Women want attractive children. And it just goes without saying that humans are attracted to humans that are attractive. And when I say looks, I'm not just talking about being attractive in the face. I'm talking about having a nice body, being built, being muscular, being very masculine. Very masculine men are attractive to women. All right, on to the next thing. Personality. People who are very outgoing, people who are charismatic, people who have swagger, they are very attractive, just like people who are physically attractive. Also, women like men who have a lot of authority. Men who are assertive, maybe even a little aggressive, or a lot aggressive. Also, women like men who have power, which you can lump in with attitude or you can lump it in with money and do like money/power. But either way, women like men who are in charge. If you have the power to persuade people, the power to get people on your side, the power to get people to like you, then of course you're not going to have a problem attracting women. Now, some people might want to lump education in with money and providing, but having an education does not necessarily mean that you make good money. I know a lot of college graduates that found out all too late that degree wasn't the golden ticket that it's made out to be. Plus, they're not calling themselves rich lames, they're calling themselves educated lames. Higher education isn't necessarily tied to something biological. Yes, humans have always learned, but back in the hunter-gatherer days, what you needed to learn was how to hunt and gather. So like the boys went off with their fathers to learn how to hunt, and the girls stayed with their mothers to learn how to cook the food once their fathers brought it home. This whole thing of sitting in a classroom for however many hours a day and taking exams and all that, on the timeline of humanity, that's a relatively new thing. Cave women didn't choose men based on degrees. Primitive tribes in Africa and other places around the world don't choose their men based on quote-unquote education in the sense that you mean it, like having degrees and stuff. They might choose mates based on who can gather the most food, or who's the strongest, or who's the chief's son, who's the chief's daughter, stuff like that. Alright, so you're educated, right? But you're not getting women, at least not in your younger years. You're losing them out. You're losing out to thugs. Alright, so you, Mr. Educated Lame, are being passed over for thugs by women. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you're probably not that handsome. Not saying you're ugly, but handsome men, they don't have a problem attracting women. I'm going to venture to say that you're probably not that buff. Because muscular men in general, they could have some other problem that disqualifies them from that, but in general, men who are very masculine, who have a nice muscular body, are very attractive to women. I'm also going to hypothesize that at the very most, you have a regular personality, meaning that you're not charismatic, not overly outgoing, you have little or no swag, because men who are good at all that stuff, they don't have a problem getting women. And lastly, I'm going to say that you don't have a lot of money. Because as we all know, men with a lot of money have no problem getting women. You may have a decent amount of money now, but at the time you were getting passed over by thugs, you didn't. Just a little side note, even though money does attract women, I wouldn't suggest that you lead with that, because you're more likely to attract gold diggers and very shallow women. But the point still remains that money is a way that you can attract women. So what you need to do, or what you needed to do, was set aside your education for a moment and ask yourself, if I didn't have this education or this degree, what else would attract women to me? If you don't have anything to fill in that blank, that there is your problem. You're an unattractive guy with a degree. Just like those black women were ugly chicks with degrees. Or at least, so you said. Just a little side note, am I saying educated women can't be pretty? No. However, if an educated woman was pretty like that, then she'd be in the pretty girl category. You'd be a pretty girl who's also educated. But if you're leading with your education, if your big shtick is, I'm an educated woman, then you're probably leaning on that because your looks have failed to distinguish you from others. So you're falling back to your education to try to separate yourself from the pack. Pretty women don't get passed over whether they're educated or not. Let me tell you something. If you ever heard of Asperger's, basically that's a high-functioning autistic person. A lot of those people are very smart and even get college degrees and stuff, but their social skills are so underdeveloped that they're still very unattractive to women. So just being smart and just being educated isn't enough. You have to be attractive. I'm not just talking about the physical. I'm talking about you better have something that attracts women. Money, looks, attitude. One of the three, all three of the three, something. Now, here's another reason why I say it's ego. For every educated lame out there, there is a female counterpart, and there may even be more. Why aren't you going after her? And please do not tell me it's because all of them are also going after the thugs. First of all, thugs don't want them. Thugs want the hot girls. Now, I know it does happen sometimes. When I was in college, I knew a few girls who were going to school to be teachers, doctors, lawyers, whatever, but they had some thug hood boyfriend. I know it happens, but don't tell me it's all of them. Is it that there aren't any educated lame females available, or is it that you don't want them? Now, I'm guessing you want the pretty girls. Well, the pretty girls want pretty guys. They want buff guys. They want charismatic guys. They want guys with money. Alright, so you guys are complaining that thugs are getting the women you want. Well, what's so special about these women? Are they the best women? What makes them the best? Do they have high moral character? Well, if they're dating thugs, that's kind of questionable, so what's making them the best? Is it that they're pretty? Are you lusting after these women for any other reason other than they're pretty and have a banging body? I'm asking you. Yes, I know men are attracted to pretty women, and that's tied to something biological. But you can't complain about women choosing a thug who is masculine, got money, and is good looking. I'm not saying he has all three, but has at least one of the three. You can't complain about women choosing that guy over you, and then you turn around and choose women solely based on them being pretty and ignore the fact that they may have some character flaws if they're choosing thug men. If they're not making good choices, they should be off your list, but I understand why they're not. But they should be. And now I want to address this argument that I hear some black guys make that, black women didn't want them when they were struggling to get through school or, struggling to build their business or yada, yada, yada. And now that they're successful, a lot of black women are interested in them. And some black guys take it a step further and say, well, since black women didn't want me then, I don't want you now, and I'm going to date whatever other race. I feel men who say this feel guilty about dating outside their race, and they looking for a reason to justify it. You don't have to justify it, but since you feel guilty about it, you think you have to. But anyway, my answer would be, when you were in school or struggling to build that business, you didn't have anything that was attractive to women. And I'm not talking about money, because I talked about three things. You didn't have charisma, you probably weren't that good looking, and you didn't have money. Now that you established yourself and you're older, you've got the money, which is attractive to women. Perhaps you start going to the gym and bulked yourself up, which is attractive to women. You can't really do anything about your face, but that is what it is. And then maybe in the process of building a business or going through school, you developed a personality. You learned to be more assertive. You're essentially a different person than you were back then. And all these white women and Hispanic women who were all over you now, would they have wanted you back then? And if you had been what you are now back then, would black women have wanted you? That's the question you need to ask. But you're not going to ask it. Also, maybe the fact that you didn't attract as many women in your younger years was a blessing in disguise, because you didn't end up getting sidetracked, like possibly getting a baby or, somebody getting you mixed up in some bull crap, or, you end up getting in a fight over her or something, or, whatever, any number of things that can go wrong when you have women in your life. So, if things turn out in the end, I don't even see what you're complaining about. But, yeah. That's pretty much all I have to say. And don't get me wrong, it sucks that, somebody who's got their lives together, at least headed in the right direction, has to compete with somebody who is selling drugs or committing crimes, stuff like that. That sucks. I'm not saying for a minute that it's not reasonable for you to expect to be picked over them. I'm just saying that you still have to be attractive to women. Even if you are doing the right thing, even if you're educated, even if you're a great guy, you still have to do things to be attractive to women. And whether that stems from what you are, who you are, or what you can provide, you're going to have something that attracts women. That's all I got to say. Add your 2 cents to mine, and we'll have